الحمد لله الذي هدى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين اجتبى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون فإذا قرأت القرآن فاستعذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنه ليس له سلطان على الذين آمنوا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون إنما سلطانه على الذين يتولونه والذين هم به مشركون صدق الله العظيم. When we look at our deen and some of the most important things and the requirements of our deen, we find that one of the very important requirements that normally people don't pay attention to it, and we don't give any importance to it in normal life, many times because of not even thinking about it as a requirement of deen, and sometimes may even be because not even knowing of it. And that is the love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That requirement is such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders about it in Quran, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam explaining it in the ahadith, because whatever orders have been given in Quran will just tell us this is what we need to do. And then the ahadith will explain the details of it, just like zakah, for example. Quran says paying zakah is fard. Now, how much to pay? Quran does not speak about it. And ahadith said the rule of how much to pay, and they tell us the amount. Same thing. Quran tells us about this requirement that love with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is fard. And then the hadith explains how much love should be there that is part of our deen. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says in a hadith, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, I swear by God, لَا يُؤْمِنُ أَحَدُكُمْ حَتَّى أَكُونَ أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ وَالِدِهِ وَوَلَدِهِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. No one can be a true believer till that person loves me more than his and her parents, children, and everyone else in the world. So now we know the amount, how much love is required, how much love is needed. When we look at this requirement, and then we start looking at ourselves, we will realize that there is a lot for us to work on. We need to work very hard on this requirement of our deen. Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, the levels that they achieved in closeness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the high levels that they achieved in Jannah, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informed about that in the hadith also, and Quran speaks about it. The main reason behind it was that love that they had for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for which the love was to the level for which they were ready to sacrifice anything and everything. We normally see a young person who's out of his mind because he fell in love with someone. And I'm sure youth know, and adults experience from youth also many times, if we have older children, what we are talking about. And the person is just like a blind man. If parents don't approve it, then parents are bad. Brothers and sisters are against it, then they are enemies. If friends don't like her, then all the friends are bad. It's still love. But many times they go wrong, and most of the time they are wrong with the love over there. Here is a love. Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een had that love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the love that made them do everything. But that was the love that was approved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not only approved, required by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And up to now is required. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam immigrated to Medina Munawwara, Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, the people of Ansar, many of them had not seen Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They just became Muslims as they got the message of Islam. But they were waiting to see Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam arrived Medina Munawwara, they all ran to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and each person is expressing his and her love in different ways to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They're offering whatever they could for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And to the extent a Sahabi came and he said, Ya Rasulullah, and he was a young Sahabi, about 20 years old. Ya Rasulullah, I'm willing to do anything that you would say. I love you so much, Ya Rasulullah, that I will accept all of your orders, anything that you would say. I'm at your service, Ya Rasulullah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, of course many people said the same thing. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, just to see and test that person's love, says to him, is your father Muslim? He said, no, Ya Rasulullah. Then how about go and kill your father? So the person started walking. As he took some steps, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him back. He said, Allah did not send me to break these type of relationships. I was just seeing if you really mean what you're saying. While these people are offering different things and they are showing their love and affection to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a person who had some limitations because of which could not come and say anything to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and had nothing to offer Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the same time. This person is sitting home and thinking, what should I do now? All the people are visiting him. They are showing the love. They are offering, Ya Rasulullah, I'm at your service. I can do whatever you like. Whenever you need me, you call me. I will be with you all whenever you need. But this person is thinking, what should I say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? After thinking for a long time, something came into this person's mind. The only thing that this person had in his life. But if that person would offer this, had offered everything that this person has in his life. But for those type of people, these decisions were not difficult. And finally, this person decided to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with that offer. Who was that person? That was Sulaym radiyallahu anha, the Sahabiyyah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had not seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before, but she was a believer. And she wanted to go with some offer, something that shows her love to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she had nothing that she owns or she had. The only thing she had was her 10 years old son. She went, Ya Rasulullah, this is my son Anas. Everyone is offering you something. Ya Rasulullah, now this is your son and he will be at your service, Ya Rasulullah. Of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had many other people offering these type of things. Ya Rasulullah, I'm at your service. Older people, people who have a lot of value in the community, people who are wealthy, people who have high status in the community, they're offering their services to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But here Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, out of his mercy and rahmah, accepts this orphan and accepts the offer from Sulaym radiyallahu anha. Okay, Sulaym, then if you offer him, I will accept your son. Night time he will come to you and ask him to spend the rest of the day with me. And this Anas radiyallahu anhu spent 10 years from the age of 10 till 20 with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And we know Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam lived in Medina for only 10 years and then he passed away. We talked about Anas radiyallahu anhu before. And we talked about the du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that he got. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made a du'a for him, that Ya Allah, bless his life, bless his wealth, and forgive his sins. And Anas radiyallahu anhu says, seeing the result of the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this world, before seeing the forgiveness in the akhirah, the first two du'as he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed my life so much that I had a long life and I had a lot of children. He says, I had buried almost close to 100 of my own children and grandchildren with my own hands. And his garden used to give the fruit twice a year, whereas every garden will give the fruit only once a year in the season. His garden, every year, it was known that the garden of Anas gives the fruit twice a year. One day, the person in charge of his garden came to him and said to him, we don't have, because we didn't have no water this year, no rain this year, so everything is dry. He said, even my garden is dry. He said, yes. And I said, no, it's not possible. Okay, let's go there. He went over there, performed 2 rak'ah salah, and the person in charge of the garden says, a cloud came that was only on top of that garden and raining in this garden. Of course, he learned these things when he was around Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What is it that Anas was getting during these 10 years from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam? When a person spends 10 years in a university, learning some special knowledge, special field, in a special field, learns about those things. A person who have worked on computers and learned about it in 10 years, of course, will do much more than what we all together can do, because we will spend years before we can do anything, and that person in minutes says, oh, this is how to do it, and he gets it. Couple of buttons over there, and it's there. And this is where Anas radiyallahu anhu was learning from the University of the Nabuwah. And of course, the University of the Nabuwah will teach to press the right buttons that will connect you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Rabbul Alameen. And here Anas connects right away. People are saying no rain. He says, no rain. What do you mean no rain? For my garden too? Here. Raises his hands. Ay Allah, Khadimu Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I am the servant of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My garden is dry. I need water. And right there. Sulaym radiyallahu anha, of course, offered the greatest thing she had at that time. But this wasn't the greatest sacrifice she offered. Before this, she had offered other sacrifice that might have been greater than this one. And that was before she saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What was that? Anas radiallahu anhu's father, whose name was Malik bin al-Nadr. You know Anas radiallahu anhu's name is Anas bin Malik. His father was Malik bin al-Nadr, who used to do a business, and most of his business was in Syria. So he used to spend a lot of time over there.